Welcome to your adventures in dreamland. Soft, surreal, and slightly cheeky sleep stories with awe and wonder. I'm Serene, your guide tonight. You may have noticed my stories are very different, yet kind of the same. That's because I write in many styles. Dreamscapes are surreal journeys where strange and beautiful things happen. Dream Grounds is cozy nostalgia that honors the unsung magic of real life. Dream Wonders explores incredible science, nature, and history. Dream Studies dives deeper into academia like physics and philosophy. Dream Priming is like an affirmation and a fun story. And Dream Spoofs takes a funny look at life's insanities. They all blend, but each has a home. Look in the playlist to find one that fits your night. They're all pretty yummy. If this speaks to you, tell the algorithm. A like or a share goes farther than you can think. It helps me keep the night lights on. And do tell in the comments what stories you love, or whatever you'd like for me to dream up next. Now, we return to what we are. Moments before sleep are sacred and potent, a time when your subconscious is most open. Over 90% of how we feel and act is shaped here. So these stories aren't just for sleep. They're immersive adventures carefully curated to expand your inner world and spark real change in your outer one. It's like planting a seed in fertile soil. Let it take root, because in sleep, you unknowingly return to your purest state. Bliss, awareness, freedom. Your story begins. An RV park in the Fjords of Norway is episode 30. This is the third pull-in our Dream Camping mini-series, which lives inside the larger Dream Grounding playlist, where we slow down to savor the quiet magic of the world's most beautiful places. Maggie, your loyal but slightly opinionated RV. Yes, the very same from episode 6 and 19, purrs smugly as she rolls to a stop. Not a jolt, not a squeak, just the sound of tires settling into gravel with a little self-satisfied exhale, like she's found her happy place and knew it before you did. Outside, everything is still. Not frozen or stiff, just paused. The kind of stillness that feels like a held breath. You glance through the windshield and see the fjord stretching out in front of you, smooth as blown glass, cradled between two cliffs that rise like ancient shoulders. Mist curls off the surface in wisps, like the water is letting out tiny secrets into the air. You step out and immediately smell pine, cold stone, and something faintly sweet, like rain soaked into wood. Your boots make a soft crunch on the gravel. Maggie stays behind, content to let you take this first step alone. She's done her job. The RV park is tiny, 5, maybe 6 spots. all spaced with respectful distance, like neighbors who nod but don't chat unless there's a reason. Each site has a little wooden platform, a picnic bench that's definitely seen snow, and a short trail leading down toward the water. You don't see anyone at first, but then, "Hello there." A man emerges from behind a stack of firewood, like he was grown from it. He's tall, woolly, and exactly what you'd expect if someone said, "You'll be greeted by a man who smells faintly of smoked fish and moral wisdom." His sweater is patterned, hand-knit, and possibly enchanted. His beard is generous. His smile is quiet. "I'm Rune," he says. "You found the best spot, I think." Before you can reply, a blur zips past your left leg. "Watch your toes," says a smaller, sharper voice. You turn to see a girl of about 10, skidding to a stop beside Rune. She's wearing 2 different mittens, a navy raincoat, and the unmistakable expression of someone who knows how to start a fire without permission. She's also carrying what appears to be a small boat made of bark, string, and unearned confidence. "This is Liv," Rune says. "My granddaughter. She's our harbor master." Liv squints at you. "Do you snore?" You blink. It's fine if you do, just not outside. The crows here hold grudges." Rune clears his throat gently. "Liv helps me manage things. I handle bookings. She monitors wind direction and gossip. Liv holds out the boat. Want to race it later?" You nod. You don't fully understand, but you're already invested. Rune leads you to your site, the one closest to the fjord naturally. It's tucked between a mossy boulder and a young pine tree that leans slightly to the left, like it's trying to hear the water better. You can see the entire curve of the fjord from here. You swear Maggie hums in approval as you park. Rune shows you the hookups, simple, the rules, few, and the welcome board with hand-painted signs like "Respect the fog," "Don't feed the trolls," or "Live," and "Yes, the water is cold." Liv runs off to test her boat. Rune gives you a thermos of something warm and says, "Let me know if you need firewood or peace and quiet. We've got both in bulk." You sit on the little bench for a while, drink in hand, eyes on the water. No notifications, no timeline, no rush, just you and the fjord, and Maggie quietly watching the clouds, smug as ever. Later that afternoon, you decide to go for a wander, the slow kind, with no map, no goal, and no urgency. Maggie seems pleased. You can practically hear her mutter, "Go stretch your legs, I've earned a nap." The gravel path gives way to pine needles and moss, soft as felt beneath your shoes. Trees rise up like old guardians, arms outstretched, watching you pass without judgment. To your left, the fjord curves like a sleeping serpent, vast, dark, and mirror smooth. You pause and blink, because the reflection of the mountains is too perfect, too symmetrical, like the world accidentally doubled itself. You wave a hand. The sky ripples. That helps, but only slightly. Somewhere in the distance, a raven calls, low and echoing. You wonder if it's warning someone, or laughing, or both. "Careful," says a voice behind you. "If you stare too long, you'll fall in." You turn. Rune stands on the path in his usual sweater, holding a bundle of kindling under one arm and a small tin kettle under the other. "Come," he says. "I'm lighting the sauna." You're not entirely sure how you got volunteered, but you follow him without resistance. The trail winds up into a grove of birch trees, and there, half tucked into the hillside like a shy creature, sits a little wooden sauna. Round door, smoky chimney, a stack of firewood so neat it feels spiritual. Rune lights the stove with practiced ease. The smell of pine sap and char fills the air. Then he gestures inside. You have the place to yourself. "I'll fetch tea." And with that, he disappears, kettle swinging casually from his hand. You step in. The warmth greets you instantly, not hot, but embracing, like a long hug from someone who never rushes. The walls are raw timber. The air smells like citrusy birch and warmed cedar. There's a small window that frames the fjord like a painting. You sit. Time does its usual trick of dissolving. You can feel the tension leaving your arms, your jaw, your thoughts. The steam rises in soft gusts. Your breath slows. Your body becomes a little less yours and a little more forest. Eventually, the door creaks open. Liv's head appears around the edge. "You decent?" You nod. She walks in like she owns the place, which she might. She's carrying a wooden tray with 2 tiny ceramic cups and a jar of honey labeled simply, "Not for bees." "You get 10 more minutes," she says, handing you a cup. "Then we do the fjord thing." "The what?" She just grins. 10 minutes later, you're standing at the water's edge, towel around your shoulders, toes just grazing the slick black stone. Liv points. "There." You look down. There is, in fact, a small ledge below the surface, like a tiny natural step, half submerged, just enough to stand ankle deep without vanishing. "I did it yesterday," she says proudly. "Didn't even scream." You raise an eyebrow. "Much," she adds. You take a breath, step in. The cold hits like a whisper. Sharp, exact, electrifying, not painful, just awake. The kind of cold that leaves no room for stray thoughts. You last a full 10 seconds, maybe 12. You might have time traveled. Liv cheers like you just won something. You sit back on the dock, feet tingling, wrapped in the towel. The sky above is still pale blue, but the cliffs have gone golden at the edges. The fjord, smug as ever, reflects it all without blinking. Somewhere behind you, Rune's kettle whistles, and Maggie hums her low approval. You've passed the test. Sunset arrives slowly in the fjords. Not like a curtain drop, but more like someone dimming the lights, very politely. The cliffs blush rose gold. The mist returns in ribbons. Maggie's windows reflect the glow, like she's wearing makeup for the first time in years, but won't admit it. Rune appears at your sight with a soft knock on Maggie's door frame. Waffles are on. Bring your own plate if you've got a favorite. You do. It's the one with a chip shaped like Australia. You follow the gravel path toward the main hut, a cozy wooden cabin tucked near the park entrance, lit by golden lanterns and the gentle flicker of something cooking with care. Inside, there's laughter, steam, and the unmistakable smell of waffles, real ones, crisp-edged and heart-shaped, cooked on a heavy iron that looks like it's been passed down through 12 generations and a minor Viking raid. Rune mans the waffle station like a surgeon, methodical, calm, but with the faint smile of someone who knows he's about to alter your soul using nothing but batter and heat. He slides one onto your plate without a word. You follow the toppings table, which includes lingonberry jam, sour cream, slices of brunost, Norwegian brown cheese, a jar labeled cloudberry, a mysterious tub simply marked yes. You top your waffle, find a seat on a carved wooden bench, and look around. It's mostly other RV folks, a quiet older couple from Germany who hold hands while eating, a man in a yellow raincoat who appears to be traveling with a houseplant, and a Frenchman in round glasses who, by all accounts, speaks no English but is currently dominating a game of campground bingo. Liv stands in front of the fire holding a stick like a microphone. Good evening. This is Liv News at Night. Today's top story: the ravens are plotting again. There's light laughter around the room. She continues. Sources say a meeting took place on the big rock by the compost bin. Eyewitnesses confirm the presence of 3 ravens, 2 crumbs, and 1 extremely suspicious feather Rune calls out from the waffle station. Did they make any demands? Liv nods solemnly. Yes. Fewer rules. More raisins. A woman near the fire asks, do they have a spokesperson? They're birds, Liv says, with the long, suffering tone of someone who's always the smartest one in the room. They have spokes feathers. Someone nearly drops their tea. Rune places a fresh batch of waffles on a wooden board and raises his cup. To the ravens, he says, may they find peace, purpose, and plentiful pastry. To the ravens, everyone echoes. You smile. You hadn't planned to smile today, but here you are. As the sun continues its slow descent into not quite night, the lanterns outside the hut begin to flicker on. The air is cooler now, and someone hands you a mug of warm berry tea without asking. It tastes like someone bottled the feeling of finding a mitten you thought you'd lost. The Frenchman suddenly calls out, "Bingo!" with great authority, and no one questions him. despite there being no numbers drawn for the last 10 minutes. Rune shrugs. He's got the vibe right. That counts. You sit back, sip your tea, and look through the window. The fjord is still there, of course. Glassy, watchful, possibly eavesdropping. And somewhere outside, you're pretty sure a raven just cawed in agreement. You're halfway through brushing your teeth with a tiny cup of water beside Maggie when Liv appears out of the mist like a child-shaped oracle. She's holding a flashlight. It's off. "Antlers," she says simply. You blink. "What?" "Antlers. I heard them." She gives you a meaningful look, the kind that requires shoes. Moments later, you're following her up a narrow path behind the RV park, the kind that threads through pine trees and over boulders like it's been stitched there by hand. Everything is dim, not dark, but soft, like the world's been put in night mode. The air smells like cold lichen and old rock. "Did you really hear them?" you whisper. Liv shrugs. "Probably." And then, "If we don't find reindeer, maybe we'll see something else." Sometimes the sky gets weird up here. That seems promising. You reach the top of a low ridge. The fjord curves below like a sleeping creature. Maggie is barely visible now, just a warm square of light in the distance. Then, a sound. Soft, a rustle, the crunch of hooves over moss. You freeze. Liv grabs your arm, points, and there they are, 6 of them, maybe 7, reindeer, moving silently across the ridge like shadows come to life. Their antlers catch what little light there is, thin silver curves against the sky. They walk without hurry, without fear. One pauses, turns slightly, and looks at you. Not startled, just aware, like it recognizes something in you, something ancient and soft. Liv doesn't speak, neither do you. The herd continues on, disappearing slowly into the trees, as if sinking back into myth. You let out a breath you didn't know you were holding. Above, the sky is doing something ridiculous. The midnight sun hangs low on the horizon, not setting, not rising, just floating there like it's undecided. The light is a watercolor of oranges and violets and whisper blues. The clouds glow at the edges like they're trying on halos for size. Liv flops down onto a big flat rock and pulls her hood up. This is the best time. It's like the world got tired of being loud. You sit beside her. The stone is cold, but grounding. The air is crisp. You feel suspended, not in danger, not in motion, just held. "I once saw the sky turn green," Liv says suddenly. "You mean the northern lights?" "No, I mean green. Like gooseberry jam. It was weird." You nod solemnly. Gooseberry weird is the worst kind. She giggles and offers you a single wrapped caramel from her coat pocket like it's sacred. You both sit, chewing quietly. watching the sky pretend it doesn't know how time works. Somewhere in the distance, a raven calls, once, then again, softer. Liv murmurs, maybe they're telling the reindeer where to go. You don't ask how she knows that. You just believe her. You're still seated on the ridge, the last threads of caramel dissolving on your tongue, when you hear footsteps approaching from behind. It's Rune, of course. He carries a folded blanket and a small lantern, the flame inside flickering like it has opinions. Thought you two might need this, he says, setting the blanket down between you and Liv. Looks like the sky's thinking about showing off again. You look up. The midnight sun has dipped just low enough for the deeper colors to creep in. The blue turns navy, then indigo, then something so dark and velvety it almost feels like touch. And then, there it is, a slow green ribbon rising from the far side of the sky like breath. Faint at first, like someone painted it and then tried to rub it out with their sleeve. You stare. Liv whispers, "They're here." Rune sits down on the other side of her, resting the lantern between his boots. "You know what that is?" he asks gently. "That light?" You nod. "The aurora borealis." He smiles. "Yes, but do you know what makes it?" You shake your head. You sort of do, but not in a way that ever stuck. Rune leans back and begins, his voice low and even, like a bedtime story made of science. "It starts with the sun," he says. "She sends out wind, fast streams of charged particles, little bits of energy, flying through space. Sometimes they brush past Earth. Sometimes they crash straight in. You watch the light stretch, slowly shifting from green to a hint of violet. When those particles hit the magnetic field around our planet," Rune continues, "they get pulled toward the poles, north and south. And when they hit the gases in our atmosphere, they light up." "Like magic?" Liv asks. Rune chuckles. "Like physics pretending to be magic." You look up again. The lights ripple slightly, soft waves, like silk curtains being moved by invisible hands. Rune picks up a small stick and draws a little spiral in the dirt. "The green is oxygen," he says, "up high. If it turns red, that means the oxygen's even higher, thinner. Blues and purples, that's nitrogen. Getting excited." Liv tilts her head. "So the sky is glowing because it's full of excited space particles?" Rune nods. She shrugs. "Okay, fair." He pauses, then adds, "The Sami, the indigenous people of this land, believe the lights are the souls of ancestors. They say you should never whistle at them or wave. It's disrespectful." You go very still. Liv looks mildly alarmed. "I waved once." "They forgave you," Rune assures her. "Still," she says, looking up, "I'm not doing it again." Rune points to a particularly bright ripple overhead. In Finland, they used to say it was a fox, racing across the snow so fast that its tail sent sparks into the sky. That's where the word comes from, Revontulet, foxfires. Liv grins. Better than excited nitrogen. You stay like that for a while, the three of you bundled under a shared blanket, the sky pulsing slowly above. The lights move without sound, without rush, without rules. Somewhere behind you, Maggie is still and glowing faintly from within, watching, listening. Rune speaks once more, just above a whisper. Science tells us how it works, he says, but I think the question most people care about is why it makes us feel this way. You don't answer. You can't. Your throat is a little full. You just keep watching and wondering and breathing. You wake to the sound of water, not crashing or rushing, just moving, lapping, like a cat drinking very slowly. Maggie is still, her windows fogged slightly at the corners. The light filtering through is a muted gray-blue, the kind of sky that makes you want to keep your blanket on a little longer. There's a knock, soft but persistent. You open the door. It's Rune. He's holding oars. I thought we'd row a bit, he says, like it's the most normal offer in the world to receive before coffee. You look over his shoulder. A rowboat is already waiting at the edge of the water, tied to a small wooden dock. It's simple, painted red at one point, but now mostly faded to suggestion. There's a folded blanket in the stern and a tin thermos tucked beneath the middle seat. Liv stands on the shore, waving a piece of toast at you like a signal flag. Don't be late, or you'll miss the silence. You laugh, pull on your warmest sweater, and follow. The boat is steady. Rune rows with ease, not in a hurry, not showing off. Each pull of the oars is smooth and spaced, like a lullaby being played on water. The fjord stretches out around you, silent and deep. Pines line the edges. Mist gathers in loose curls, hanging just above the surface, like it hasn't decided whether to rise or sink. Rune doesn't speak at first. He just rows, and you let yourself become part of it. The rhythm, the quiet, the cool air brushing your cheeks. Eventually, Rune hands you the oars. You take them. You don't do it perfectly. One side dips too deep, the other too soft, but he doesn't correct you. He just smiles and lets you find it. There's no destination, just drifting. At one point, you pass under an outcropping of rock where icicles used to hang, and Rune says, in the spring, the ice falls straight into the water. It sounds like thunder if you're listening. Were you? Always, he replies. You row back slowly, your arms a little tired, your mind strangely clear. When you return to the dock, Liv is waiting with a solemn expression and a small bundle in her hands. This is for you, she says, holding it out. It's a feather, small, white, with a bit of gray at the tip, tied with red thread into a soft loop. For dreams, she explains. Good ones. Long ones. The kind that stay with you in the morning. You crouch to her level and take it gently. "Where'd you learn to make this?" "I didn't," she shrugs, "but I woke up and knew how." Rune gives a quiet nod, like that explanation tracks. You carry it back with you, the feather tucked into your pocket, like something sacred. Maggie hums as you return, a gentle, pleased sound, like she's been watching from the shoreline this whole time and approves of your choices. You hang the feather gently from the little hook beside your bed. It sways slightly, like it's checking the room for stories, and you realize you're smiling again. Not because anything happened, but because everything did. Later that day, after a slow lunch and an even slower conversation with Maggie about whether or not socks are optional, you find yourself wandering again, this time uphill. Rune told you there's a trail just behind the sauna cabin that winds through the forest and ends near a secret waterfall, which, according to Liv, is barely a secret and barely a waterfall, but still very important. You follow it anyway. The path is narrow and soft, blanketed in thick moss that springs underfoot like the forest is trying to help your joints. Pine trees rise around you in close ranks, tall and gentle. Ferns unfurl near your ankles. Mushrooms cluster near old stumps, like tiny watchful umbrellas. The deeper you go, the quieter everything becomes. Not silent, just layered. There's the creak of branches swaying in slow conversation, the drip of water from a recent rain, the occasional flutter of something feathered above you, unseen. And then, somewhere ahead, a sound. Plink, plink, plink. Water. You step into a small clearing, and there it is. Rune's not so secret, not so massive waterfall. It's barely taller than you, just a steady trickle of cold mountain runoff tumbling down mossy stone into a clear, shallow pool, a miniature cascade, like the earth is exhaling through a straw. You approach and crouch beside it. The air here is cool and impossibly clean, tinged with the smell of wet granite and pine needles. Someone's placed a small wooden bench nearby. Uneven legs, a bit wonky, probably built by hand. You sit. A moment passes, then 2, then 3, and something settles. Not around you, in you. You close your eyes and listen, not to what's around you, but to how it sounds, the shape of it, the feel of it, the almost silence broken only by gentle repetition. Drip, plink, hush. You feel your breath, slow, without asking. You didn't come here to meditate, but you might be doing it anyway. Eventually, you open your eyes. Someone has been here before you. Tucked along the edge of the pool are tiny offerings. A ring of pine cones, a feather propped against a rock, a flat stone with a heart drawn in charcoal. Someone whispered to this place. Someone let it hold something for them. You lean forward and whisper too. You don't plan it. It's not a wish, not a prayer, just a quiet thought you let go of, like putting a letter into a bottle and setting it adrift in a pool so shallow it probably doesn't go anywhere. But still, it feels good to release it. On your walk back, the trees seem taller somehow, or maybe just more certain. When you return to camp, Maggie is waiting, as always, with the look of someone who absolutely knows you cried a little and won't say a word about it. You run your hand across her side in thanks, and inside, the red thread feather sways gently from its hook as the sky leans into its dusky blues, never fully dark, just darker. A quiet rustling begins around the campground. You poke your head out of Maggie to see Rune walking from site to site, carrying a wooden crate full of small lanterns. They clink gently with each step, metal, glass, and ceramic in mismatched sizes, all handmade or handed down. Liv trails behind him with a box of candles and a face that says, "This is a very important job." Rune reaches you and lifts one of the lanterns out. It's round, with an iron loop at the top and tiny stars punched through the metal casing. "Pick a spot," he says simply. You glance at Maggie. She seems to already have a favorite, a low wooden stump near her passenger side, just far enough away to cast a soft glow across her front window. Liv hands you a stubby candle and a long match. She doesn't say anything, just watches you light it like she's evaluating your technique. The flame catches, the lantern breathes, and somehow, that's all it takes. You've contributed to the evening. All around the park, others are doing the same. An older woman lights hers and places it near a gnarled birch. The Frenchman hangs his from a branch, muttering what may or may not be a poem. A couple from Denmark arrange 3 lanterns in a triangle and sit inside it, cross-legged like a summoning circle for introverts. You wander a bit. Some lanterns are tall and thin, with clear panes. Some are round and squat, with colored glass that casts warm shapes on the ground. Amber, green, violet. One looks like a tea kettle, another like a bird cage. None of them match, and yet somehow they all belong together. The effect is subtle, like the whole campground is glowing from within, like the earth got freckles made of firelight. Rune begins setting a few along the path to the sauna cabin. It started a few years ago, he tells you. Someone brought a lantern instead of a flashlight. Then someone else brought 2. Now it's a tradition. What's it for? You ask. He pauses, considering. Soft endings, he finally says. Not every light needs to be bright. Some just need to be kind. Liv appears with her own lantern, shaped like a mushroom and painted a very questionable shade of orange. She holds it up proudly. Mine's the weirdest. Obviously, you do not argue. She places it beside the path near yours and announces, "Now it's a trail." "A trail to where?" you ask. "To whatever tomorrow needs," she says, already skipping away. You sit beside your lantern for a while, watching the flames flicker and settle. No one's rushing, no one's loud. There's a quiet murmuring of people returning to their RVS, the rustle of blankets, the closing of tiny doors. Above, the sky is still glowing, just faintly now, a leftover wisp of green near the edge of the mountain, as if the aurora couldn't help but peek back in to see how things turned out. You run a finger along the lantern's handle. It's warm, solid, humming slightly with the wind. Maggie's lights are on now, low and golden, waiting for you. You pick up the lantern and carry it home. You return to Maggie just as the lanterns finish their quiet work, casting final little halos across the ground like dreams being gently previewed. Inside, it's warm. A touch of cedar from the tiny wood sachet you tucked under your pillow. Your bed is already turned down, the red thread feather hanging nearby like a sleepy guardian. You sit outside for a moment longer, wrapped in a blanket, camp chair tilted back, feet tucked up, eyes to the sky. Above, the aurora is back, not flashy, not swirling, just a soft green ribbon hanging low and steady, like a curtain that never fully closed. It moves a little, then stops, as if it's watching you this time. Maggie hums behind you, content, quiet, half asleep herself. From somewhere far across the fjord, a bird calls once and then falls silent. The wind barely stirs. The pines stand still. The stars blink slowly. Liv pads up beside you, says nothing, and hands you a second blanket. She curls up in the chair next to yours, knees tucked, gaze skyward. Rune doesn't come. Maybe he knew this moment needed to be shared without words. Or maybe he's watching from a window, sipping tea and smiling. Liv leans over after a while and says softly, "You know, they're not just lights, right?" You smile. "I mean, they are," she says, "but also maybe not." The feather sways faintly on its thread. You whisper, "Yeah." I know you stay like that for a long while, wrapped in warmth, eyes full of sky, heart full of hush. Eventually, Liv yawns, stretches, and heads off toward her cabin with a sleepy, one-handed wave. You wait a little longer, just until the green ribbon shifts one final time, as if tucking you in. Then you rise. You step back into Maggie. The lights are dim. The blankets are soft. Everything smells like pine and old stories. You slide under the covers. You exhale, and the world fades. No rush, no jolt, just a slow glide downward. The fjord outside holds still. The aurora lingers above like a lullaby written in color. And somewhere, tucked into this little corner of the world, you fall asleep. You're safe. Sweet dreams.